All right.
Welcome to Johnson County Jam. Before we get started, subscribe and give us a huge thumbs up. Comment down below what your favorite instrument is.
We'd like to welcome you to another installment of Jam Sessions.
Tonight is our first live stream in 2021, and we are so excited to have our enrichment teacher Sarah Ransom here tonight to talk with us about the Mountain City dialect.
Remember, when school is canceled for snow, we still have our Zoom lessons, but don't have our live stream on those days, so you can still get your lesson in on snow days.
A couple of weeks ago, Peyton Gentry celebrated her 16th birthday. A happy birthday to Dylan Vanover and mandolin instructor Buddy Moorfield, who also celebrated a couple of weeks ago.
She's pretty bird. She warbles as she flies, but I never give her water. The fourth day of July, gonna build me a log cabin on a mountain so high. So I can take my true love as he passing by. Oh, she is bigger. She warbles as she flies, but I never give her water. The fourth day of July, often that I wonder why women love him, and I sit back and I ponder why men are men. Oh, the cuckoo, she is river, she warbles as she flies, but I never give her water. The fourth day of July. Roma she prefers. She marbles as she flies, but I never give her water till 4th day of July,
All right, so it's my turn. So tonight we're going to be talking about the Appalachian dialect, which is a very interesting melting pot of languages. So some may refer to the Appalachian dialect as mountain speak, hillbilly, or just simple Appalachian tongue or Appalachian speech. Our dialect is full of funny little sayings that have often been stereotyped in movies and lots of TV shows. So the Appalachian region is not just a place on a map, but it's a culture in and of itself that's based strongly on oral traditions. And so this is why when you find people from the Appalachian region, we share a lot of these funny little sayings. It's a way to connect and bond with the people that are with us. And since it's an oral tradition, it shows up a lot of times in our storytelling, whether that's in song, ballad form, or in our stories that we have written down. So as we mentioned, it's a melting pot of dialects from different languages from all over. This comes from back when the original settlers came into the Appalachian region. They came from England, Ireland, and Scotland. And so all three of these kind of melted together to get this very unique Appalachian sound. So if you take some of those languages and you squish them together and speed them up, then you get some of the words or the funny little pronunciations that we have for words around here. So many of these words that are spoken in the Appalachian region are hard to put into print because they're not always spelled or spoken the exact way that they would be spelled in proper English. So this is what we would call an I dialect, or nowadays we refer to this as phonetical spelling. And so if you find a really old Appalachian story or some of the older Appalachian songs, you're going to find some of these words that are just not spelled correctly. And that's because they're written out like they sounded to the people back then. So the neat thing to remember about any language is that this is a key piece to how individuals associate within their certain people group. So language is a fundamental aspect to know if you're a local or if you're just a tourist or somebody visiting. Or as we would say around here, oh, they're just not from around here. So as we think about some various states that are included in the Appalachian region, it's important to remember that there are northern states and southern states. Typically in the South, we're going to speak our vowels a lot slower and we're going to kind of draw them out. Whereas up north, they don't tend to do that as much. So this just goes to show that even though we're all in the Appalachian region, there are still going to be some differences depending on where you are. So let's go over some old-fashioned Appalachian isms. So these guys are going to help me. They didn't know that part. If I were to say the school schedule has been pretty cattywampus, what does that mean? Crazy. It means things are going crazy and have been real messed up. If I said, I've known some of these kids since they were knee-high to a grasshopper, what does that mean? Yeah, since they were little tiny things. Now, if I say, I reckon I'm going plumb crazy, what am I saying?
Crazy.
Yeah.
General.
So reckon, when I say I reckon, that's another way of saying I think. And when we add plumb in front of something like crazy, it means I'm really losing it. If I were to say, we got a skiff, but it was just enough to need to wear your toboggan, what am I saying?
It's probably something to do with cold.
It does have something to do with cold.
Wind.
Oh, getting closer. We're supposed to get a skiff this weekend.
Snow.
Yeah, a light dusting. It may have turned out to be more a light dusting. But if you're cold enough to wear your toboggan, this is what we refer to as the thing you put on your head. However, in other regions, they might call this your knit cap or your beanie. However, if you go up north, a toboggan is purely and only associated with the sled. Down here, we just call them sleds. So if I say you're living high on the hog, what does this mean?
You're kind of, can't think of the word for it, but it's like you think you're above everybody.
Yeah, you're
Confident.
living a very luxurious lifestyle. You are way up there. And so if you're way up high on the hog, some of us who aren't quite up that high, we may accuse you of being all gussied up, which would mean what? Yeah, you're dressed up all fancy. You've really gone over and above. So if you're a clodhopper, that's not a good thing because that means you might be a little bit clumsy. If I accuse you of being ornery, that means you're behaving. No. Ornery means you're behaving very poorly, and you need to correct that right away. If everything is hunky-dory, that means things are going really good. If you're a young buck, we might have 3 of those in here. If you're a young buck, what does that mean? Chloe, what does it mean if somebody says, oh, they're a young buck? Yeah, you're a young man who might think quite highly of himself. You guys are in that category. If you're slower than molasses, slow as Christmas, or a Pocahontas, what does that mean? Yeah, you're going very, very slow. If you're 2 peas in a pod, that means you're just like the other person. But if someone tells you to quit being ugly, they might be telling you that you need to straighten up and be nice. However, if they say, give me some sugar, that's just another way of asking for some hugs and kisses. Now, if you're sweating more than a sinner in a Sunday service, this is another way of saying you're very nervous. However, we may look at that person and share a bless your heart. Now, this is a very interesting Appalachian term because most people who are not from around here hear us say, bless your heart, and they think that we are giving you a compliment. However, most of the time in the South, bless your heart is not really a compliment. It's more of an insult because we're saying you just don't really know what you're talking about. Bless your heart. You need to learn a few things. Every once in a while, it will be used to relate to somebody or as a term of empathy if they've experienced loss or death or a change of life situation. Oh, it's bless your heart. I'm so sorry for you. So it can be used multiple ways. And so that's where context becomes key. So another one that we have after people get their hearts blessed out, they may also need someone to jerk a knot in their tail, which is just another way of saying that they better get it straight and put an end to this nonsense. However, if they don't get it straightened out, you may need to kick them to the curb, which means what? Yeah, you got to get rid of them. They got to go. But sometimes we may just tell these people to shut your trap or hush your mouth. What does that mean? Yeah, shut up or stop talking, be quiet, something. Put a lid on it. So in our area in the farming district, you may hear a calf bawl, which just means they're crying and crying and crying for mama. You may hear the sound of the water in the creek, which is how a lot of people around here would say creek. It's often referred to as a branch or a brook as well. An easy way to distinguish if people are from your area or not is remembering that little sayings can vary. You've got fine as frog hair split 3 ways, fine as frog hair split 4 ways, and there's several other variations. We also tend to pick up the terms that are used by our family and closest friends the most. My family frequently used a little birdie told me when what? Somebody told me a secret, and I'm not going to tell you who told you. And then one that's been told for generations and generations is all's well that ends well. So it's important to remember that even within the same state or within the same region, words can be pronounced differently. So a few hours down the road, there's a town called, I'll give you the spelling first, spelled Maryville. Some people refer to this as Maryville, and some people refer to this as Merville. Now, it just depends on where you're from and how you pronounce it. Some people may call it soda. Some people may call it pop. Some people may call it Coke. It can mean the same thing or many different things. And then the big one that sparks lots of heated debates amongst people in the Appalachian region is to remember the Appalachian region spans from Georgia to Pennsylvania. So we have quite a few states in there. And depending on where you hail from, some will pronounce it Appalachian. That's wrong. And for those of us who know how to pronounce it right, it's Appalachian. So we always know if someone's from here or not. So in the farming community, you're going to hear things like, don't count your chicks before they hatch, meaning don't assume something's going to happen just because it's looking like it's going to. We might tell you, don't put all your eggs in one basket. This means you need to diversify because if you trip, you're going to lose all your eggs because they were in one basket. And I'm sure many of you have heard the classic, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. So lastly, in our music community, if I were to say these kids are fixing to get ready to play us some tunes, what does that mean?
Getting ready to
Yeah, they're getting ready to do what?
play music.
Play some music. So, thanks for listening and learning a little bit about some Appalachian dialect tonight. Go ahead and type your favorite Appalachian sayings or your funny little isms in the comments below, and we'll turn it back over to you guys.
Gonna do a song called House of Rising Sun. Let's go. There's a house in New Orleans they call the Rising Sun, and it's built the ruin of Betty Morgan. And God, I know that I'm born. Oh, my mother was a sailor. She sewed my new blue jeans, and my father was a gambling man down in New Orleans. Now the only thing I ever need is a suitcase and a trunk, and the only time he's satisfied is when he's on a drunk. Now, mother, tell your 3-year-old run not to do what I had done. With that voluntary. I've got one foot on platform, the other is on the train, and I'm going back to New Orleans to wear that ball and chain. There is a house in New Orleans they call the rising sun, and it's been the ruin of Betty Boy, and God, I know that I'm one, and God knows that I'm one. Well, that's all, folks. Thanks for watching. Come back next week, unless we get a snowstorm. One thing, how's the route?